Okay, think about this for a second. You're a caveman. No hospitals, no last names, no DNA tests, no Maury Povich. You live in a group of maybe 20, 30 people. Everyone sleeps near the same fire, and one day, a baby shows up. How on earth does anyone know who the father is? This sounds like a joke, but it's one of the most fascinating questions in all of human history. And the answer? It completely changes how you see modern relationships, marriage, and even jealousy. Let's talk about it. So here's the thing most people don't realize. For most of human history, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived in smaller nomadic groups called bands. These weren't families the way we think of them. It was more like a traveling commune. Everyone knew everyone. Everyone helped raise the kids, and relationships, they were complicated. Modern humans have been around for at least 300,000 years, but marriage, as a formal institution, is only about 4,000 years old. So what happened in those other 296,000 years? That's where things get really interesting. Anthropologists have actually argued about this for decades, and there are basically three big theories. Theory 1, they just didn't care. Some researchers believe that in early human groups, paternity simply didn't matter the way it does today. In many ancient cultures, and even some modern tribal societies studied by anthropologists, there's a concept called partible paternity. This is the belief that a baby can have multiple fathers. Yes, you heard that right. Some Amazonian tribes today still believe that a child is literally made from the sperm of multiple men. So every man a woman slept with during pregnancy is considered a father, and those men, they all help raise the child. Sounds wild, right? But actually, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's genius. More men invested in protecting that child means better survival odds. Theory 2. They watched closely. Other scientists believe early humans were surprisingly good at figuring out paternity just by observation. Think about it. In a small group of 20 to 30 people, everyone knows who's spending time with who. Humans are incredibly good at reading social cues, jealousy, and pair bonds. Early humans likely notice resemblance too. Studies show that even today, people are surprisingly accurate at matching fathers to children, just by looking at their faces. Especially newborns, who often look strikingly like their fathers in the first weeks of life. Some researchers believe this is actually an evolutionary trick. Babies look like dad to prevent infanticide. Theory 3. They controlled it. And then there's the more uncomfortable theory that in some groups, dominant males controlled reproduction. The strongest, highest status male in a group would have more access to females. Similar to what we see in other great apes like chimpanzees and gorillas. In this model, paternity is known not through certainty, but through control. So when did paternity actually start to matter? The answer is around 10,000 years ago, when humans invented agriculture. Before farming, there wasn't much to inherit. You had your spear, maybe a good rock. If you died, your stuff just went back to the group. But once humans started farming, suddenly there was land, there was livestock, there was property, and property changed everything. If you worked your whole life to build a farm, you wanted it to go to your children, not some other man's kids. This is when paternity became a legal, social, and economic obsession. This is when marriage was invented, largely as a system to control and confirm paternity. This is when virginity became a concept that societies cared about. This is when adultery became a crime. Literally, the entire concept of a nuclear family, mom, dad, kids, house, is a relatively recent invention driven by property rights. Kind of puts a different spin on things, doesn't it? Now here's where modern science gets involved. Geneticists have actually studied ancient DNA to figure out how paternity worked in prehistoric times, and what they found is surprising. A study looked at ancient burial sites across Europe. They found that during the hunter-gatherer period, before farming, people were buried in mixed groups without clear family structures. Genetic relationships were all over the place. But after farming started, Suddenly you see something new in the burial sites. Fathers and sons buried together. Clear, patrilineal lines, family plots. The data literally shows the moment in history when who's the father became one of the most important questions a society could ask. And DNA tests? Those are only about 40 years old. Before that, for literally all of human history, no one could be 100% certain. Some scientists estimate that even today, somewhere between 1 and 3% of people have a different biological father than they believe. That's millions of people walking around right now who don't know their real father, just like our ancient ancestors. So what's the answer to our original question? How did ancient humans know who their father was? Honestly, for most of human history, they didn't. And it didn't matter. It was only when we invented property, wealth, and inheritance that paternity became an obsession. The jealousy, the paternity tests, the weddings, the legal systems around marriage, all of it traces back to one simple thing. Humans started owning stuff. Which means, in a weird way, if you ever worry about your family, your legacy, what you'll leave behind, you're not just being human, you're being a farmer. And that instinct, it's only about 10,000 years old, which in the timeline of human existence is basically yesterday. And thanks for watching, Lumiya. If this made you think, and subscribe, because next time we're asking another question that sounds simple and isn't. See you then.